Hello there, Ray here. We have a brand new 1.17 snapshot. This is for the Caves and Cliffs update. This is version 21W11A. And eventually all this new stuff will come out into a full release. I will be reviewing all the new changes and the fixes that they made. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out on all the new things that I do with these changes, including new farms and contraptions. This version mostly consists of a lot of new ways to obtain items, including making things farmable and renewable, plus a whole bunch of bug fixes and tweaks to the game. So let's get started. You're now able to waterlog lightning rods. If you bone meal the rooted dirt, it will produce hanging roots. You can make a simple automatic farm just like this using a dispenser pointing directly into the rooted dirt and bone milling it and using shears to collect it as an item, which makes the hanging root a renewable resource now. We'll be working on new types of farms during our snapshot testing streams, so make sure to join that with my Twitch link down below. It's now possible to make wax variants of blocks just by right-clicking them with some of the honeycomb in your hand. So right-click this, you see it makes little particles, and now it is a wax variation. You can see that in the right-hand side of the screen. This one says copper block, and now it says waxed copper block. And we can also do this automatically with a dispenser pointing into the block with some honeycomb in there. And if we power this, you can see it does the same thing. Now you can also remove the wax by right-clicking with an axe, and it also has these white particles. Another new feature is lightning striking oxidized copper will actually clean it off. You can see that these blocks got converted. Some of them got completely cleaned, some of the farther ones got partially cleaned, and there's these really cool particles that come off of the lightning when they convert it. This only works on normal copper, doesn't work on the wax variation of it. You don't have to worry about having your builds change if you don't want to. They also added so that the wax copper can be converted back down into normal copper ingots. They also did some tweaks to cave sizes, and they slightly increased the frequency of diamond ore generation blobs. Now hanging root also has a slight offset similar to like grass, so it looks like it can kind of hang over the edge of something, but the center of it is still over here. Now if you break the stem of a big drip leaf, it will drop more big drip leaves, so you can actually get like a farm out of this. Now all variations of moss blocks, like mossy cobble, mossy stone, etc., actual moss blocks to be crafted. Now a small drip leaf will face the direction in which the player places it in. There seems to be a bug when you remove it. It also removes the water down below. Amethyst clusters will now drop 4 amethyst shards when mined with a pickaxe. It will drop 2 shards if they're broken by hand or broken by a piston. It can drop more than 4 shards if they're broken with a pickaxe that has fortune. This means we can update our amethyst farm. They added a new shortcut which is pressing F3 plus L, and this will generate and persist a performance metrics from in-game. You can see it says profile started ends in 10 seconds, or when you press F3 and L again, and after 10 seconds, the profile ended, and it saved the results onto your computer. And it captured such information as like tick duration, used heap sizes, and other more detailed stats. It says that this can be used for performance regression analytics, if included inside of bug reports. And they are planning to add some more stuff to this. They also tweaked and fixed quite a few bugs in this newest snapshot. They added amethyst block chimes to the subtitles, and they also fixed this bug with amethyst not only pulling the main one, but also dropping items. This will remove that type of amethyst dupe. They also changed the inconsistencies between breaking the amethyst by hand and getting nothing versus breaking the block underneath of it and having it drop it. They also considered this a bug where mobs were suffocating inside of the tinted glass. Now they should no longer do that. There was statistics for using a spyglass, but they were just never being increased. Now they are. There's a problem with the world border not rendering properly. It was actually rendering upside down. Hearts freezing over in hardcore mode was actually looking exactly the same as the normal hearts. They also changed it so mobs no longer will spawn on top of tinted glass. One of my concerns in my earlier video. There were some problems with putting lava and powder snow inside of cauldrons that they addressed. They also added so tinted glass has the impermeable tag just like normal glass does. Now when lightning hits a lightning rod, there's no longer a chance that it will produce skeleton horses. This means we really can't use it to make a skeleton horse farm. They tweaked the player inventory so that the lighting is better. They fixed this problem to do with lichen, which is, even though it gets to a point where it can't grow, it still consumes bone meal up. So now we shouldn't have to worry about our lichen farm wasting bone meal when you have a clock versus having a smart clock. They also changed it so you can now compost lichen. There's a problem that spectators couldn't see through powdered snow. There was some desyncing with water, lava, and powdered snow buckets. The player would turn very fast and place it. Also, area effect clouds were not using their appropriate maximum area. They were creating too large of one. There was a problem where tridents that weren't being returned to the player were causing the players to be permanently kicked. They also changed it so spectators can see through lava. This is what it used to look like. The actual pixels on the side are different when you place snow on top of it versus not having snow. You can see right down here, if I place snow, it changes, and that has been fixed. They also changed it so that the texture of the arrow of a spectral placed as an entity as well as the actual item look the same. The texture of a villager versus the same type of villager being a zombie was some inconsistencies, and that has now been addressed. There was also some pixels that looked different in the bottles and the brewing stands that they changed. There's also a problem with chunks and distance getting calling, so they wouldn't show up in rendering. Wood signs also had some really old textures on them, which they updated. The backup painting still had the old wood textures, which they updated as well. There were some inconsistencies with the smoker's top of its pixels, which they changed. Carved pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns were causing undesirable formations. The door in the creative menu used to be this old one, and didn't look anything like the one you placed down, which they changed. The jigsaw structure were causing a bunch of spam with the data fixer. The Guardians had this floating pixel that they removed. There are some inconsistencies to do with the glowing vines. They're actually called cave vines, and this has now been addressed. In the past, you could remove the supporting block of a blossom, and it would stay floating, and now that's been changed. There was also a similar problem to do with the hanging root. They also added it so now you can climb up these cave vines, and they gave them other properties like slowing the player down when he goes through them. There were some inconsistencies with the light depending on which piece was actually producing the light, and now they should be the same. There was a problem that you couldn't use bone meal on the stem of a drip leaf. Now you can. They also changed the appropriate tool for removing moss from being an axe to now being a hoe. There was some Z fighting on lecterns when they were on fire that they removed. Azalea can now be used as a fuel source. They changed Gilded Blackstone so that it matches the new texture of Blackstone. Players were taking no fall damage when they would fall from above wide level 316. There was some color inconsistency between the sugarcane block and the sugarcane item. There was a problem that some of the ores were still generating with the stone variation when they were generating near the tough blocks. They fixed a bug to do with teams which was dysfunctioning when any of the entities left the team. And this is something we noticed, and I'm excited that this is fixed. The new cracks added were causing these kind of layered slices to be made in the game. There was generation problems in super flat worlds. The debug chunks by doing F3 plus G weren't showing up properly. You could see how strange the chunk borders look like in this version. And the debug pie was completely blacked out. They also added so water should have fog again. They also fixed a problem with generation where hanging roots would end up hanging on top of another hanging root. In mip mapping, some of the block faces were turning out to be too dark. Banners were also not being affected by light levels. There was also no enchanting in the last version, and now there should be. There were some problems to do with the fast graphics causing problems that they fixed. The glowing effect no longer changes the player color. They also fixed a problem due to generation where floating water was occurring in the lush caves too often. Hulkers weren't turning red when they were supposed to be taking damage. The right click option on some crafting recipes wasn't showing anything. They tweaked noise cave entrances so that they're not too unnaturally smooth on the rest of the terrain. They also made it so that the cave generation isn't too blocky. During sunset, there was these weird lines that were occurring in the sky. They made a change to the glowing effect so now render around translucent pixels. During generation of caves, some of the cave vines are actually generating without a support block. There was a strange effect when you would be freezing while using the spyglass. You can see it looks quite odd. They also fixed a wide range of rendering issues, including a prominent one to do with charged creepers where they would make other entities nearby invisible. They also fixed it so that you can no longer use the spyglass as a way to kind of x-ray through blocks. Same goes by holding an enchanted item. They also fixed a problem to do with fishing rods sometimes having the line not connect to them. Some blocks being moved were showing that they were much brighter than what they were supposed to be. They also made an optimization to generation when it has to decide where to put in deep slate. In some cases, when you're inside of a block, you can't see the block textures, and they've now changed it. Tons of new things added into this game and a lot of changes which will actually affect it as well. So come join me as we test out all these new things on my Twitch stream, link down below. You guys can also join me on my Minecraft server. You can find the IP on my Discord. And remember to share this video as well as leave a like on it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye!